So I'm here with Julianne. I'm so excited to have her here to be able to talk to another mom, a business owner, an entrepreneur, and just really dig a little bit deeper into motherhood and entrepreneurship when it comes to really putting yourself out there and what that means in regards to your family, to your own self as a person, and also to your own sense of womanhood, I should say, and then also how it affects you just as a mom and what that looks like and what that is. So, welcome. Hi.
Yay, I'm super excited. I mean, first off, the fact that we've grown, right? Like we've known each other from young, we've watched each other's journeys. Like I'm so honored to be spending this time with you. So thank you so
So
much
fun.
for
So,
having me because this is such a big topic for I think for many women out there right now,
oh my gosh.
you
And
know.
I'm fascinated by this topic because um, to be honest with you, I feel like it's been like a for me personally, motherhood has been like a slap in the face. It's been like, "Oh, hello,"
Yeah.
and now there you go. Here
A
you
different wake up call kind of,
definitely
right?
like a call, right? But it's like a wake call, but
Yeah.
slap
I feel like it's a wake up call, slap in the face, but like a big hug at the same time. And you're just not sure which one you want to take first or how you want to balance the three of those things.
So I'm excited to have you here, and I just wanted to get some feedback and background from you in regards to kind of how you started, what it is that you're doing, and what you did prior to motherhood. Like, give us a little bit of background about that.
Sure. Oh my goodness. Okay. So my journey started, let's just say in Penn State. And then after Penn State University, I was really lucky to, I was in retail and retail just kind of took me from my feet and kind of ran, like it made me just keep going. And I grew within retail. I was with the company for about 10 years. And I grew up in there. I was store manager. I made it to district manager right away, and ended up from at regional director, which was phenomenal. My career was something that I can honestly say really helped me also develop and really learn a lot about myself, right? Because I went from being constantly, being told my family, my parents, that being the leader, right, being the teacher out there, and it was a great journey, the corporate world, retail worlds. I got to see a lot of different places. I was major in travel. Like outside of my corporate world, I love to travel prior to kids. I was always like, "Hey, I'm in Australia today, in Greece," and that free life for a quick second. Um, you're laughing because you're
That
like, "Yeah, just jump on a plane. Oh, you want to go tomorrow? Sure, no problem. Let's go."
mhm.
And I mean, I'll tell you, prior to kids, I'm glad I took that journey. I'm
Yeah.
glad that I was able to just kind of, experience life, not just from a career place, but experience life from actually the world, right? Seeing how different people live, the different cultures. So I feel like that really helped me realize what I wanted out of life. And the more I looked at being in the retail corporate worlds, the money was great, right? But the time that I put and dedicated into that, just there was a point. It was great for my 20s, but then I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? Me and my husband had met in 2010, and we traveled for about 4 years, like hardcore traveled. I still was working for the company. And when we started talking about kids, my lifestyle of working, I don't know, let's just say I feel like it was 150 hours a week realistically.
Right.
Because even when
Right.
I came home, the stores were still open. The owner of the company would call me 5 a.m. before his flight to, China, Italy, asking me for numbers. So it's like, even though I was home, there was no quality of life or balance.
There were no.
And I
It sounds like there
remember
was no boundaries
there
either.
was no boundaries. There was no, it was just, I kind of felt like he was my dad almost, to be honest with
Interesting.
you,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
call and because it was a small but big company, and I had the biggest territory. You had the East Coast in your hands. The money makers. It's like you stop and drop whenever. There was a point that I had almost 40 something stores. How
Yeah.
many regionals underneath me? How many district managers? So that journey for me was fantastic, but something had to change.
Well, I can relate to you. I worked in retail, and it is not. easy. It is not easy. It is like, and you know what I remember the most about it is the adrenaline rush. There
Yes.
was this sense of like energy. It was like sales were up, people would come in and purchase thousands of dollars of
Yep.
products or retail, items. And I remember getting, this energy from it. And I would
Hmm.
be there for hours. I
And not
remember
even realize it.
and not even realize it. Then you have people coming in and coming out. And it's a lot of hard work, but obviously, like you said, it doesn't really support the lifestyle. And I think
Right.
also that at that time in your life, there was more flexibility for
Like,
us to say, you know what? It's okay if I work 10 hours. It's not a big deal.
right.
The main focus was moving up the career
Right.
path, so to speak,
Right.
and going ahead and making sure that you basically banked and you got made money,
And
because
money
that
was,
and money was
you know,
king, right?
yes. It's interesting, right? Because even when I went up through the chain, right, I didn't have to be in stores on the weekends, right? You're regional, you're going to national manager, sales manager. You're supposed to be flying. This is like the better days. It was just having like it was like having going from like one baby to 10 babies to like
Yeah.
40 babies and
So
their so it was great, but something had to change because my family, I'm very blessed and lucky for the path that they paved, but they were workhorses at the end of the day. So my parents dropped me off, let's just say, at times 7 in the morning. Sometimes I didn't see my mom till like 6. Sometimes I did see her at 3 o'clock. She would run me to ballet, but like it was just kind of like that pull and tug life. And I always told my husband, I was like, I pray and I want to put out into the universe that when we have kids and we plan, I can be home with them more and I can see them and really be a part of their life and their development. So we really shifted the focus on what my life plan was going to be.
good for you. I mean, I think that that intention of creating that reality for yourself obviously manifested. I can't
100.
wait to hear more about that. And so you bring up a good point in regards to your parents, because one of the things I'm most interested in um, is really finding out how you feel your culture played a role of how you are as a mother today. And just from a perspective of being a Latina, it's a really important role, motherhood.
Very.
But I remember feeling, my grandmother worked, my mother worked. I just don't remember seeseeing this kind of um, struggle, so to speak. And when I say the word struggle, I mean more so of there's no issue. You went to daycare, you went to school, you were there for 10 hours a day, and this is what you just did. There was I feel like now when I look on social media or I'm connecting with women, there's a struggle for them of if they should allow their children to go to school for that long, that we're not being good moms because kids are in school for longer periods of time and you want to be able to have the quote unquote, dream and have it all, be able to stay home with your kids
Right.
or work from home or be an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of stuff in that. And so I'm curious to find out how you feel culture played a role in the mother that you are today.
Oh, I think it played a huge role. I will say I agree. My mom never showed, at least, and God bless her and her strength. She never was like, "Oh my God, they're getting on the bus. Oh my goodness,
Right,
I'm
right.
leaving them for 10 days. I mean, 10 hours. I felt like 10 days sometimes to me, but and you just go right. Like you just kind of. I feel like it almost becomes like anything, right? It becomes robotic almost. Like you just realize like this is what it is. I have to go to work and I have to be able to, feed my kids, give them what they want, give them the best clothes, whatever it is that you have to provide, right? Roof over their heads. Like I feel like that was the mentality back then. Like I need the roof, the clothing, the food, right? Like so they did what they had to do. And I feel for me it played a role because I saw my mom struggle though with balance, right? So for me, I was very heavy into ballet. She started me like 3, 4 years old. I mean, I went all the way up to like 16 years old, where my time, doing this, it went from like an hour of ballet twice a week to 20 hours of ballet 4 times a week down in Dance of Harlem. We lived in the Bronx, so she would pick me up because she never really, my mom was definitely one of those that you're not taking the train. So she would pick me up, leave work, run there. Like I just saw her constantly running. And I feel like when I look back at that, I feel I almost had a different opinion or different wanting. wanting to create a different space for me and my children in life, right? Because my mother was kind of all, my dad was kind of like the one that would just show up, like 5 minutes before, like 5:05 sometimes, and the recital started at 5 o'clock or 4:55 because they were like running from work. And I think that that played a key role for me because it was like, what can I do differently? How can I be there? How can, my mom would go on the trips, but it was like she always had to check in and find a way to take off for her to come with me. And I saw it as it was a blessing, but I also saw like what are we gonna do? And there I will tell you, Aisa, there is a real struggle for moms. I'm involved with a lot of women. I have a lot of obviously my main client is women. I'm in a lot of mom groups. I've always even when I was pregnant, I joined a mom group before I even had a child. So just to be
Right,
surrounded,
right,
right? Like
right. Sure,
not all
sure.
my
And
friends were
safe.
having kids at the
That's
time, so I
right.
needed to surround myself and start understanding. And I feel like there's a different pressure. I think there's a different pressure of how do I go to work or how do I put my kids down so I can cook even? Like even to that small degree, there's a pressure. I notice there's a pressure of my child's playing by themselves. I need to go play with them. Where I will tell you, I think that that's great that we're more aware. But I feel like the guilt level of women right now it's like at 1,000% where I feel like they women, and it happens with me as well, and especially with COVID now, right? My two kids. I have my 5-year-old daughter. I have my almost 2-year-old son. They're like in my face all the time. I'm balancing two businesses. My husband's home, so it's a very different balance right now. But what I realize is even women sitting down or friends, let's not even just saying when friends sitting down to chat, oh, they're playing by themselves. I have to play with them. We have to play more games. Like I love my parents, but they weren't sitting and playing with me house and Barbies and games all the time. And I think I remember
That's
both.
right.
They
Yeah.
weren't.
They weren't. They were hanging out with their friends in the living room.
You go in
They
the
were
room.
having right, they were chatting and they were like, "Go into your room and go figure out what to do.
Right.
I don't know,
Yep.
go outside." There was no like, "Oh, I have to get this for the backyard or I have to
Yeah.
do this." It was like, "You go outside, you can play with the grass. You can watch the grass grow if you'd like, but don't come inside."
Right.
It
This
was
is
that
adult time.
mentality. It was
Right.
adult time and you knew that and there was no sense and you kind of figured things out. But you're right. And you hit on a really important topic that women and mothers nowadays really have this sense of of feeling this heavy emotional guilt on top
Right.
of what it is that they're doing. So you're at home, you're the mom, you prepare meals, you feel like there's another level of interaction that you need to have with
Yes.
your children. And all of that to say, um, I can't help but think that this comes from social media. I mean, because and I'll be
Yes.
interested to find out what you think about it, but I kind of feel like the comparison of in no way, shape, or form am I saying that it's the issue of social media,
Right.
but is the issue of the images that social media portrays of what motherhood is like. I believe now there's a shift happening. I believe that now women are now starting to say, you know what, simplicity over craziness, or it's okay if my kids are doing X, Y, and Z activities, or it's okay that I didn't finish all the laundry or wasn't able to keep the house clean the way I really wanted to. I mean, I don't know where the heavy guilt comes in, but I definitely have felt it and continue to feel it. And I have to check myself. I have to say, no, you are an incredible mom and it's going to be okay. The kids are going to be okay. And so, what is because when I said social media, you were like, yeah, I don't know. So tell me what you feel about that
You
because I'm
know,
interested in finding out.
I do want you to know this. I used to really feel that heavy guilt. I used to, and I'm not saying that I don't feel that anymore. There's moments that I'm like, eek, like I should have spent more time. But I think for me, I've kind of found a balance and a process for that. And I'm a very visual person, so I've literally had to put my planner in my face and say, "Oh, I colored today," like in my planner for me. So that when I see that pink, because that's the color I started with Dave, and I never changed it for Phoenix. I don't know why, but I would feel like, okay, I've spent some time with them. It doesn't have to be 20 hours a day. But I will say this: I think there's a twofold to what you're mentioning with social media. I think, and I'll share this with you. I haven't been posting a lot at all. Like during COVID, I like share something here and there because I've been so focused on business, also making sure that I'm developing my children at home and just enjoying my husband being home too, right? Like he was commuting an hour each way and he's home, right? And so I've had people say, Julie, everything okay? What's going on? And I'm like, no, everything's great. I'm just not posting all the time, because I post a lot. That's just what I do. There's two things that I think that happens. It's happening. First, I think that the guilt is coming from people looking at social media. I 100% agree with you. I do. I think people see like the happy life and people don't always post about it. I'm not one to really sit there and be like, oh, look, yesterday I was at, one of my best friends' fathers who passed away, his life celebration, but I didn't post about all that. Just, first of all, that's her privacy, right? Let's start there. And it's not something that I chose to share, I mean, but I think that when people see all these happy pictures, they're like, "Oh, how do I do that? Or how do I go there and look at them?" And oh, now they're playing. They're building I saw somebody the other day building a volcano. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I should be building a volcano." Like,
That's exactly it. That's exactly
like,
it. It's
and
not
then, but at the
it's
same time, like, I'm like, that's a great idea because I am looking for stuff sometimes to do with them, and I'm not the most crafty person. My daughter can teach you about credit scores. She can sit here and she can tell you how to do a selfie, how to fix it. She can tell you how to write a quote, but how to build a volcano, I haven't done that since like fifth grade. But
yeah.
so I think that, but I think what's also happening for moms and for children is instant gratification. And what happens with that heaviness and that guilt, right? So let's just say now you post it and you get like 5 likes, like maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe it's not enough time. Or if your child sees something on TV, where in my house, just so you know, we don't have any commercials here on purpose, right? Because
Right.
these commercials are feeding these kids like what to buy and how life should look. And I'm like, we cut all that out.
Right.
So people start seeing this and they start saying, well, how can I be that person? Which puts another layer of guilt, right? Because if you see it, there's like the crunchy mom, there's the stay-at-home mom, working mom, there's the mom who, goes out and works 9 to 7. And I think it depends where the person's at with their family. They're single moms, right? Like I work all day and my kids, I don't have a nanny or they're in school. So I feel like that pressure kind of continuously shifts. And I think social media does play a role, but I think it's social media. And I also gotta say, I think it's a little bit sometimes of the school, right? Teachers are being more vocal out there as well, saying, well, see, they want us to be babysitters, or now you have to work, now you see what we go through. And didn't that happen on COVID? Like, I had some people say, oh my God, the teacher's like, see, now you know what we go through, and now it's time for you to learning starts at home. And you're getting that. And then you're like, am I good enough? You start questioning yourself. And my goodness, that when that doubt comes in, because it's happened to me. And I remember when I was shifting, into motherhood with Ava McKenzie, when that doubt comes in, it comes in heavy.
Yeah. And I think that, in regards to what you're saying about social media, you're right. It is a twofold, double-edged sword.
Mhm.
And most of it, for me, happens within our own heads.
Yeah.
So the reason why we feel a certain way is because we really haven't established a supportive coping skill mechanism, routine, tools, skills, whatever it is, to see. Oh, I see a post about volcanoes. Oh, that would be a great idea. One school of thought. The other school of thought is, I can't believe I don't have time to make any volcanoes. Where does she get that? You know what I mean? As opposed to like
Yep.
thinking, you know what? That's actually a really good idea. And so that brings me to another question, which has to do with this kind of shift that we as mothers um, don't allow to happen among each other. So there's this disconnect, not all the time, but there's always someone who is like, who does she think she is, or why is it that you know um I don't have that flexibility, I don't have that type of time, or financial flexibility to be able to say I have to work, so I don't have a choice. And so there's always this kind of rub. And I feel like if we would really kind of gather like
Right.
principally and gather and support. It does take a community and it does take a group to be able to raise children. And
Right.
if I look back at our ancestors, not from the previous generation, but 2 and 3 generations ago, that's how it was done. It was like
Right.
Saturdays and Sundays, or at least Sundays, you were at, a relative's house. You were connecting. There was shared meal preparation, so to speak. Um, there was shared responsibilities with kids. You'd be able to go, and you knew that your kid would be okay, and that you'd have, a few eyes on them, and they'd be able to run around, and then you would have a break to be able to just take
Hmm.
a breath.
Right.
And the isolation that's happening, that we have, really, chosen and kind of put ourselves into, which is, from a sense of mothering, just mothers in general and connecting. I believe there's some groups out there and there's some people, but there's still this level of kind of pivoting, pushing up against each other, meaning, and then the lack of, community from, family. So it's not that you're not close to your family, it's just that things are different. And so
Different.
there's there's, I don't know, weekly, time. I mean, some people have that possibility to do that, but my family doesn't really live close. I have one relative that lives, 15 minutes away from me, but besides that, there's not, the aunts and the uncles and the cousins. There's a concept that comes from that means that, we really dig deeper into really establishing roots in the community. And so there's a level of isolation that happens.
Right.
And that isolation for women, I believe, is disastrous. Because
I I will say, you know what, because of a fear that I had when I first got pregnant with Ava, Mackenzie, and if you remember, I said to you, I joined a mommy group when she was in my belly because when I really looked at my surroundings, right, I didn't have that. My friends were like across the water or in different states, like my true close friends, and they weren't having babies. My best friend and I our children are 6 weeks apart, but she's in Long Island. I'm in New Jersey. You got to cross two bridges to get to one another. Like, so although it seemed ideal, it's not like we saw each other often. And I'll tell you, when I went into a different couple mommy groups. Some were friendly, Aissa, and some made me I walked out, like, I'll tell you, and it's sad because you really look at how women treat one another, and it stems even before motherhood. I can tell, like, my lipstick, how it's bright and pink, and here I am, and, and this is even after when I had even Mackenzie. It was just kind of like, who does she think she is sometimes? I mean, my mom's always raised me like I put myself together before I go out. It's just who I am. And it's everybody's different. I've always put my gloss and my mascara. That's probably, this was for you today, this little eyeshadow,
I feel so beautiful. I feel so honored that you would do that. Thank you so much. I mean, you're absolutely gorgeous anyway, but
Thank you.
yeah,
But
but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, and so there is an isolation, and that's why I kind of like forced myself, and I found some people, but I've had the time to do that. So when I see moms that are working, till 5, 6 o'clock, they're getting home, they're cooking. Listen, there's people in my community right now that commute back and forth, and I'm just meeting them like, you're the first person we've met here in 3 years. I
Wow.
moved here in 3 years. I haven't met anybody, and my daughter's this, so my son's this, and it's really interesting. And I feel like I've been working towards building a hub, right? Because all we can do is try to build hubs. Because back in the day, you're right. I would go and we would be 20 cousins deep,
Right,
right?
exactly.
All the
So all
friends
hours of the night.
yeah, all
Yep.
hours of the night. I remember at like 6 years old, waking up on like a bunch of coats, like getting pulled, like we're going home, right? Because I was in the coat room sleeping, right? Like,
Right,
which
right.
was a fun,
Which
to
was
me,
which was the bedroom. The coat room
right?
was the
Like,
bedroom.
which to me was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like, it's very different now because I'm doggy paddling sometimes to find play dates for my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So although I have my mom close and my sister-in-law, and I'll admit I've never had anybody else watch my kids. I've never had babysitters. I've never had nannies, and I'm blessed and favored in that. I'm grateful every single day. But I am like, okay, who can I call so she could have a friend over? At school, let me stay a little longer so I can meet some moms. And you got some moms who are rushing out, some moms who don't want to chat, who are not feeling good with themselves to even have the conversation with another
Right.
mom.
Yeah. And that not feeling good about yourself is, I think, I don't know where it comes from. From each person has their own journey and what it is that they're going through. But I do think that, there is a perspective of really finding who you are in the midst of motherhood.
Mhm.
And we prepare so much for the baby coming, the room, the schedule once they're here, and preparing bottles or nursing or whatever it is that you're doing,
And there's no
for
preparation for self.
there's no preparation for self. Not one that I believe is like globally or centrally spoken about so easily. And
Right.
so there's obviously postpartum depression, which I faced after having my twins. And that was a really tough time because I come from a lineage, like most women, of strong women.
Hmm.
And the reality was that I did not allow myself to accept the fact that I needed help. I was just like,
Right.
this is just what you do. This is what you do.
Right.
You
Right.
do this and you do it and you do it as best
Right.
as you
And you
can,
and you don't fail because we
and
don't
you
like
don't fail.
failing.
We don't like
Like
failing. And
failing.
so, if your mom did it and she's a single mom, you can do it too. That's just
Right.
what we do. We do
Right.
that,
You figure
right?
it out. It's
You figure it
everything
out,
is
yeah.
figure outable. That's what I always say,
Yeah.
and that's what, as great as it sounds, that can create some very dark moments because if
Right,
you can't figure it out, you don't want to voice it because you don't want to feel like you failed. You're staring at your kids and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm
right.
supposed to be your everything, and I feel like I'm not, right? So
Yeah,
you start having those moments, and my goodness, I'll tell you this, like, I mean, I didn't fully experience the depression part. I feel like for me, I experienced the isolation part.
yeah.
And I'm sure it's one or the other, but it's very, maybe it's different, maybe it's not. But I kind of remember being like, I'm home. I got this on lock for the most part, but like, where is everybody? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah, my
All the
family
people
came
who
and
see
helped.
right,
They
right,
came,
right, right.
my parent, my mom, like your mom comes and helped, but like she gets to go home, and that's great. But I'm just like, what do I do? And breastfeeding was terrible for me. And it's funny. I have a friend right now who just had a baby. I think her son is 21, and she just had a baby, and she's been documenting like her she's calling it the fourth trimester. And I gotta tell you, I said to her, I was like, I wish I knew about the fourth trimester because
Trimester, right?
she's taking care of herself. Yes, it's all about the baby, but she's making sure she's nourishing her body for healing. She's making sure that she's getting some reading time. She's posting it. I had genuine conversation with her because she's also showing some of the havoc, like I haven't slept and I haven't this. But her time is she plants. So she has like a little garden. She lives in an apartment, so it's not like she has this beautiful backyard. I mean, I have my backyard. I still don't even have any of those vegetables, but that's her thing, right? Like she's doing something called the fourth trimester. And I think I said to her, I was like, you should document this and like make a book or actually really create, maybe it's not even a book, create like something where you can put on Kajabi, you could do something or coach women how to have this because so many women don't do this.
Right. And
You know?
it's not the conversation that's had. It's not the conversation that we're having in regards to what do we do? How does it look like? What do we make, how do we create coping mechanisms, support systems in place to be
Mhm.
able to, if you're away from your family, if you have your family near, there's still, that time that really needs to be taken for you. And self care is part of that. So how do you incorporate self-care into mothering?
Right. Well, for me, there's a couple things. I'm big on exercise. So with Ava McKenzie, I was able to do CrossFit so about 7, 8 months.
Great.
With
That's wonderful.
Phoenix, I could not work out past 3 or 4 months. I could not. I just could not.
Yeah.
I think for me, I take a couple of minutes in the morning, even if they're up or they're not. Like I have to have that quiet time. I have to find, even if it's 5, 10 minutes. I'm big on exercise, so I take my time to work out. And listen, I'm not super fit or nothing, but listen, if it's a walk, even if they have to come with me for I'm like, we're going for a walk in
Hmm.
my house with COVID right now, I used to, because I don't have the gym to go to. We built the gym kind of here, but it's still not going somewhere to let it all go. We wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, clean our face, and we take the kids for a 2 mile walk because I'm like, if I don't do this, first off, for them to burn some of
Immediately.
that morning energy, if I
Mhm.
don't do this immediately, it's not going to happen. And for my mental clarity and peace, I need to move my body.
Right.
I'll go on my porch, I'll do some stretches, at night sometimes I just sit outside. It's just I'm very big on getting that air, that sun, and even if it's those little things, there's a lot of things I do, but for me, that quiet moment is important. It is, I mean,
And even if you have to put your kids in front of a show
oh,
to get that quiet moment, like if they're watching Thomas the Train or whatever, right? You put them in front of that show because there's also this sense of like the American Academy of Pediatrics has suggested that children under the age of 3 should not be watching
right,
TV.
yeah, okay.
And you're just
Yeah.
like,
And wait,
yeah,
wait.
wait.
To me, I'm like, so do they come over and keep
Right?
them busy in those moments? Because we're not big screen time people here. We're really a lot
Right.
of music. I will say we wake up, a lot of music is on, different genres, just to kind of like do something different with the energy. But when I need a moment like this, us having time right now, when we have to, I'm still running two businesses. So I have to find these moments for myself. My daughter knows, Mommy, did you have your coffee? Listen, it is what it is. I have one cup of coffee
Right.
a day. And that one cup of coffee, let me enjoy it, please. Give me a
That's right.
second.
That's
Like
right.
I don't have five or six, but that one, just give me a moment. Let me just have
Right.
my second. Let me sit, you know?
Exactly, and breathe
Yes.
consciously.
Yes.
And so, I like what you said about really exercise. They say that exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant that there is, and also food. I know for me that's been a huge piece of it, of really taking care of myself and eating the best of the best
No,
that I possibly like. That I like and I enjoy. So
yes.
food for me has been a a part of self-care, and like you said, this grounding, getting outside, feeling the air and the breeze, and just kind of movement, because the movement that is, that often will come a part of, this whole kind of like your day. It's so funny, my girlfriend was like, how's your days going? How are your days going? And I'm like, everything is wonderful until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then everything just goes to shit.
Right.
Basically,
Right. Right. Right.
because essentially, in the morning, I'm like, okay, I have that routine, I have my practice, I get up, do this, I have my coffee, okay, great. And then all of a sudden, the kids are like on like 10. And so to be able to accommodate that, I have been able to incorporate this early part of my day that is centered and grounded and focused. That gives me about a good 8 hours, maybe.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
then, like, 8 o'clock comes, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And they're usually done too. But, not feeling guilty in the place of having to set boundaries for yourself,
Yeah.
because one
And
of the, go ahead.
when I say exercise too, I mean, first off, and I'm gonna joke with you because you have twins at least the same age. They get to play with one another, which is I'm sure everybody says, right? I have like my 5 and 2. So one wants to watch like Coco Melon, one wants to, watch something different, one wants to play it's just very different here. But I say this to my clients, and I want to go into Glossy, why I'm building Glossy, what I'm doing with Glossy as well, is I tell people exercises because, oh, I don't want to be on a treadmill. I don't want to go running. I'm like, no, 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 no. Exercise is mind. I look at my day every day and I'm like, what did I do for my mind? Did I read
A
something?
great point.
Did I sit
Great
in
point.
silence? Did I whether I did I listen to something that helped me? Did I pray? Right? Because I look at mind, I look at body. Did I stretch at least? Right? Did I? You know what? Listen. Why do you think the iPhone watches? The Apple watches. Right? Do you ever have? I don't know if you have an iPhone, but like all of a sudden, it just says breathe. Right? It just pops up. Did
That's
you
right.
breathe today?
Or
Because
move,
we don't
get
realize
up and
as
walk. Yeah.
a society, we don't even breathe and open our lungs because we're going so fast. Like our breath has become so short. So exercise doesn't mean going to run 10 miles. It's a mind exercise. It's then a body exercise of breathing, stretching, running, whatever you can do. I believe it's also an eating exercise. What are you putting in your body? What you put in your body is going to give you the energy for the day. Listen, I know the difference from a salad and a pizza. And I have some salad sometimes and I have pizza sometimes. It's okay. None of us are perfect where we're eating a carrot stick every day. And to me, that's not healthy either.
Right.
So it's also exercise comes in different forms. And
So tell me what you're doing with Glossy Connection, because I
yeah.
love that. I
So
love that name.
yes, glossy is really, and it's been, oh my goodness, it's been a blessing. Like it's like one day in silence, and I believe silence and prayer and just connecting with the universe will allow you to get the answers of what you're looking for, right? And I'm not saying they're gonna be like, here's $1 million. I'm still waiting, by the way, universe. But I feel like in my quiet time, I was like, what can I do? Like, so I started something called Living Your Vision now, right? People always talk about what they want in life, what they desire in life, what they deserve. When I get older, when I have the money, when I retire, when I can, when. And I wanted to help find people to be able to live their vision now. Why can't it happen now? And my practice is just to share, I'm a mindset coach. I'm an achievement strategist. I really like helping people take whatever their goal is. And it could be something so simple. Julie, I just want to find the hour in my day. Let's go through your scheduler and see how we can balance that out. So Glossy came about because I feel, and it goes back to what you say, we lose ourselves in motherhood, we lose ourselves in careers, we lose ourselves in entrepreneurship. And my goodness, this entrepreneurship battle for me, running my businesses has been an up and down. It just has been. And I mean, I'm blessed, but it's had its moments. So Glossy is grateful, limitless, original, sexy, successful you. And I feel like when I speak with women, they're just like, I just want to feel good. And I'm not saying sexy walking around lingerie and hey, if that's what you want to do, just feel that sexy is confidence, that feeling of it's okay, that sexiness is when you know your worth. And so many of us lose that self-worthiness. So Glossy's been built on that. I built a course through it. I'm doing some coaching with it. And then what I've done on the side, and this is not to get off topic, I built it's called Clear Financial Solutions. I built a credit and budget academy. And it's what I was noticing is when people talk about heaviness outside of motherhood and outside of who they are, finances always comes up. And I said, I'm helping women reestablish who they are, go after what they want, or just find a sense of calm, a balance of love and money is what I keep saying. Glossy Connection is a balance of love and money. So I incorporated the financial aspect, and I'm not talking IRAs, stocks, none of that. I'm talking just clear. Let's talk about how you use your money every single day, how you allocate it. Let's get your credit score up so that therefore you're feeling right. You're starting to feel like there's a balance. Okay, I'm figuring who I am out. The money we're figuring out, it's not a 2 month process. We're figuring ourselves back out again, right? At
Right.
25, maybe 25, I was like, how much is it? 4,000. Here you go. Now you're like, how much is it? 4,000. Wait a minute.
Right.
So it's been a beautiful journey seeing women step back into their gloss.
I love that. I love that acronym. That's so powerful. And so when you look at your business, and so first of all, let me ask you, when did you start Glossy Connection?
So Glossy Connection is going into a second year. I'm in the process of relaunching it. It started off as Living Your Vision now, but I really wanted something, right? Like I wanted something to pop more. Living Your Vision now sounded great, but glossy. Like, oh, I want that glow. And I said, you know what? This is so it's been in the making for a while, going
Okay.
on 3 years, but now I feel very grounded in it
Mm-hmm.
because life has happened, and I want to share this because we're in the process right now of me and you talking of how motherhood happens. And when my son came, we were buying a house, so I kind of had to put everything on pause because I didn't want to overpromise and under deliver to
Right.
my clients. And I really wanted to take a step back and really look at what Glossy could be, what it was, and what it could be. And now I feel really good about where it's going.
And
Yeah.
so you started the business when you had a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question. How did that look like? So those moms who are out there who are like, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. But my kids are young, or I don't know if I can really do this. Where do I start? How did you start? And what did that look like?
Right. So let's summit, let's step back a bit, right? We're talking about Glossy 2 years. However, we had Living Your Vision before that. And I was in network marketing. When I first left my corporate company, I kind of panicked and I was like, what am I doing with myself? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm going from making so much money and now I'm pregnant. She's going to need more from me. And, we planned David McKenzie. So I don't know why I went into such a crazy frenzy, but I did because there's those pressures, right?
Right.
So it's been an evolving journey. And I think what people tend to think about is always the results. They don't talk
Mhm.
about the journey enough, right? And
Right, and so that's why this
yeah,
is so key,
right,
and the gift to shift is really about uncovering and kind of lifting the lid off of the process.
right. And for me, through my process and looking at it all, it's gotta start with yourself. And I say that because it sounds like, all right, I know I have to start myself. It's like, first off, what drives you? What makes you happy, right? You can't, this is where social media comes into play. You look at these people, you're like, oh, but they're building these businesses and look at what drives you, what makes you happy, what's your purpose, what do you want to do? Let's just answer that. And I think that you have to also look inside, okay, what's gonna block me? What do I need to heal with inside of me first? Because I didn't do the healing part in the beginning, right? So all my self-doubt came up at a certain point. All of my insecurities came up.
Sure, yeah.
So I think first, everybody wants to have like the picture perfect of scheduling and what's the best business. It's like first you got to look and be like, what makes you happy? What do you want to do? How do you if you want to knit something all day, that's fine. If are you the seller? Are you the person who's gonna knit it and give it to somebody to say it? Everybody also, I feel like you have to figure out what it is you want to do and make yourself happy, because everybody wants to be everything, and I don't think that's the right answer. I think you have to let go. I think if that would be let go.
So
Understand that you don't have to be the master at everything. Find that little niche, that little piece, and go from there.
so find your why, your
Yeah.
purpose,
Find
and
your why.
then essentially take it to the next step, which is now that you have your why and your purpose, it really does drive you. I know that's happened for me, and this kind of redefining who I am as a mom has been part of that. Really finding what my purpose was, and obviously loving your children and your husband is a staple, is a given,
Right.
and that doesn't compromise who you are as a mom just
Right.
because you're focused on creating something that's in your deepest heart's desire, or something that leads you towards your greatest and highest good of what it is that you want to create. You have this idea, and then, like you said earlier, this doubt that kind of comes in and just kind of knocks you off your feet, and you're just like, oh gosh. But, I I agree with you when it comes to that whole process, the uncovering process of how people that you see kind of all together, everything is working. There's so many, it's like a duck in the water. You don't see their feet going, 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 but they're moving, and there's a tremendous amount of energy that comes forth from that. And that really comes forth from that purpose and that drive. And so, you know, one of the things that I find particularly interesting is this sense of uncovering the process of really figuring out what you want, so your purpose and your why, but then the action or the activity. And it seems as though Glossy Connection really kind of connects the dots on that, of just really saying, okay, if you are having an issue with X, Y, and Z, let's kind of open it up and kind of figure out what's working and what's not working there in order to move to the next place on your journey or creating financial freedom, so that you can go ahead and get towards your heart's desires or get to what it is that you want to get. Now, the transition into motherhood is one thing, but the transition, I feel there's another transition, and that's a transition back into who you are as a woman.
Right. That's exactly. And I mean, that's huge, right? I want to say this. Often I've talked to women and they're like, I'm like, what's your why? And they feel a need to always have to say their kids. And I'm going to say this. Yes, your kids are important. Yes, they're your driving force, but it's okay to give a different why sometimes, because I find that when moms say, and I'm helping them launch their businesses and I'm helping them take the next step, oh my kids, and I just like I don't see it matching, because I don't see the drive, because they feel like they have to say kids. It's okay to say something else, moms, and if you're hearing me, it's okay. It's okay to say, you know what, because I want my own car, or you know what, I want to be able to afford a nanny to come in for 3 times a week, whatever it is. Like it's okay to look at a smaller goal. And when I became a mindset coach, I loved it, right? I was like, okay, we're gonna work on the mindset. But I'm like, mindset is great, but you have to take action next. I think that's what's missing sometimes. Like, I am a recovering perfectionist.
I
Okay.
laugh because it's so funny.
And
I
I'm
was just
still
writing
trying to be
about
a
this.
recovering perfectionist.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it's important too. That's why I talk about the exercise of the mind, body, and spirit and soul and all that. But it's then taking the next step and having the confidence, or not even knowing where the next step is, but just jumping, letting go and saying, you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror. And I posted this. So you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what is it that I want? We don't look at ourselves enough. We don't take that time to like really say, what is that? Look at it. Julie, what do you want? How many women right now I've spoken to, they're like, Julie, I don't even know the last time I really looked at myself in the mirror.
Right, right, right.
Right. So even
I'm
that,
laughing because I can relate. It's like, did I look at myself in the mirror today? What do I look like going out to the store and taking care? Because it does. It becomes so much that you're just like, okay, how do I get ahead of this? How do I get back into center? Not get ahead of it, but like, how do I ground myself in this
right.
new role of who I am and what I've created? And now I have these beautiful children and this incredible family, or however your family dynamics may look like, but how do I ground myself in that and kind of readjust and align to who I am, apart from the kids, apart from my husband, apart from even my business, of
Right.
just really figuring out who you are, because that's where it's at.
Right. And
That's
I used to, I gotta tell you, I remember when you changed your name on Instagram and it said a gift to shift. And I gotta tell you, that has stuck with me because I think it's beautiful that you're really taking your time to, shift yourself, right? We're always shifting ourselves, but really exploring and working towards helping others shift because it is a gift. And I think that part of the shifting process is taking that chaos mentality sometimes we have, or that organized chaos, and bringing clarity. And it doesn't have to be this whole drawn out. People say, "Oh my God, but I have to come up with a business plan." And no, just slow
right,
down.
right,
Listen, if you could write a list when you're going to the shopping, to the supermarket, of what you need, if you can write a list of how you're going to pack for vacation, if you can write a list of back to school supplies, take time and write a list of what you need to do for yourself or what you need to accomplish. And I feel like we put a pressure on ourselves, right? Let's use an example of what moms do. Well, you know what? My kids wake up at 7 a.m. I'm gonna start waking up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, they've been waking up at 6:45 this whole time, right? It's like we want to jump because we're all superwomen. We want to just jump in and shift so fast and so quickly that sometimes we fall on our face, which falling on our face is okay. But imagine if you said, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 6:30 instead of 6:45.
yeah,
Then a couple of days later, I'm going to wake up at 6:15. And I'm using this small example because if we apply that in everything, small steps, then all of a sudden, before you know, a month into it, you're waking up at 5 if that's really what you want to do. And you're feeling good about it. And I think when you're shifting, you have to take baby steps. And then there's some steps that are a little higher than others. And when we write stuff down or bring a little, some clarity to what we want to do, it feels good. But if we don't sit down and write down a couple of things to bring clarity, to be able to shift, it's not going to work. And I did that in network marketing. I went from saying I'm going to, be a crystal director to being a millionaire by next week. And I wasn't a millionaire in a week. And I was like, oh my gosh, I failed. And what did I do wrong? And because I overthought the process, and I set myself up for failure. And that's okay. I learned from it, but I didn't want to take the little steps. And it's okay to take those little steps to get there.
right. Because back to social media, that's what I think we see. Those images are there, like, wow, she's doing this, and wow, this has happened, and wow, okay, so it's a jump, it's a movement, it's uncovering that process kind of creates authenticity and transparency, which I feel that social media is just now coming into its own with that, because now there's an uncovering, and it's not disguised, or it's not as filtered,
Right,
in
right,
social media terms, that this is really what it's like,
right.
and this is who we are. And that sense of intention, you intend to create. And so my coaching practice is focused on that. Those are the pillars: intention, creation, and then implementation, because you have to have an
Love
intention
that.
first.
I love
To
that.
Thank you so much. to
Yeah.
to to be able to kind of like intend your reality. Your intention creates your reality. And I have never, really up until this past year, I've never really understood the depth and the power behind putting an intention out there and just really creating it. So the intention is really the fundamental principle to
Right.
creation. And so when you look at kind of I spoke to another guest and she said, her name was Carla, and she says, I declare everything.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, that's so perfect. She's like, I'm going to go take a shower now. And she declares it, and she says,
That's
yeah, she says little and small, little and big things I declare. And, when I was talking to her, we were talking about something else, but when she said it, I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful, to be able to intend, declare, and then create. And it can be the smallest things like taking a shower or like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to clean that, or
right.
I'm going to organize this, or I'm going to make this stop, or whatever the case is. And, you that point, to your point of taking small steps, just intend to take a small step.
I believe intentional living for me has changed my world. I literally wake up after saying my thank yous, to God and the universe for waking me up and just what I'm grateful for. I always wake up and say three things I'm grateful for. Three is my favorite number, so that's what I stick with. I say three things I'm grateful for, and I say, this is what I intend to do today. I will, this will be done. And so it is. And what I used to do is I used to write it on a post it the night before what I needed to get done. Little things, big things, just a couple things. And I used to also put it on my steering wheel so that I knew where I was in the process. I'm just not going anywhere right now because
Right, 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 right.
so it's kind of like and me and my husband, we have a board as well, and I just put it up there because we tend to forget. It just
Right,
happens. And
right.
I used to put a rubber band around
Hmm.
my wrist, and I would snap it whenever I felt like doubts or anything like that. And I was taught that years ago, and I will say for me it worked because it kind of what was the goal? What were we supposed to be getting done? Like, don't lose focus, whether it's feelings, internal feelings, changing that, whether it's external circumstances. So I believe in the power of intention wholeheartedly. I've seen myself manifest, I've seen people manifest it. And I feel the more we say it, right? Not only are we putting it out into the universe, we're actually programming our minds,
That's right.
right? We're telling ourselves, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. That's why I also tell people be careful with some of those negatives because it can happen. So
Sure.
I love that you're being yeah, talking about intentional living as well because it's important. You
It is
feel good.
important.
Your posture
Yeah.
changes
Everything
when
changes. Your
you don't
energy,
need so
everything.
many
Yeah.
goals. Just one thing that like I love that she's saying I'm going to shower. Like gosh, that's important.
Yeah, it
You
is important. And it also, one of the things that what really stands out to me is that, you know, the intention of the action. So you have an intention, and let's say it's to wake up, like you said, 15 minutes earlier than you did before. And then that activity is where the energy and God meets you. God meets you at the point of action. And if you can really take that on, because after being in, coaching and mentoring for 18 years, I've always said, you know, action is first and then there's motivation.
Right,
So, you usually don't get motivated to create action. It's usually action, especially if you're stuck. Action
yeah,
is really what creates motivation. And
yeah,
so, if you can just say to yourself, okay, this is what I intend to do, emotionless, so to speak, with no sense of, like what you said in the beginning, having this quote unquote result, but
right,
just for the intention of saying, I did this. And
right,
then that creates energy, and that energy is what allows you to move and get to the next place of what it is that you want to create in your life.
right. You know, if I look at my life, I've trained. So if you change the word from trained to coaching, right? Because that's really what I was doing in retail. It's what I did in network marketing when I was building my team.
Right.
It's what I'm doing now. My goodness, I feel like I've been for 20 years now, realistically, 18, 15 is, because we don't realize we're doing it in different
Oh,
aspects.
sure. Yeah.
So many people have said to me, so Julie, oh my God, but I've been praying and I've been, manifesting. And I said, that's great. What are you doing though? You gotta
Right.
take a step. You gotta do
Right.
some action. You can ask God and the universe or whoever you believe in, you can do all that, but you have to really look at what can I do myself?
Right.
to
Right.
step into this place that I envision. Because if you can see it, it can happen. I strongly believe that. You know, if
Absolutely.
you could visualize it, but you have to take steps there. And me myself, when I went through after Ava McKenzie, and I was kind of like, do I do the coaching? Do I take the next step in the coaching? I kind of was doubting myself, and I was like, I'm gonna pray on it. And I was like, 2 months, I'm gonna pray on it. I'm like, come on, Julie, what are we doing here?
Right.
You know?
So as we come to a close,
Mhm.
what is one nugget of information you can give out to all those moms particularly who are interested in, starting something new to, create? What is something that the Glossy Connection really kind of stands for that you can share with the audience?
I would say let go, let God, because that's how I say it. Let go, let God, and start moving. You are magic. I strongly believe that you are magic. You are possible. You can do you've done the hard work. You're raising children. They're not easy. You've already shown what you can do for others. Do it for yourself.
That's right. And how
Step
can
into
people
your
find you?
power.
How can people find you if
Step
they want to?
into your power because you have it. You can check me out at the Glossy Connection on Instagram, Julian Gonzalez on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. But
Great.
I'm going to have the glossyconnection.com will be launching, and I'm excited. I'm super excited.
I'm so excited for you. I
Yeah,
cannot wait to continue to collaborate.
me
You're
too.
doing amazing things. And thank
Yes,
you
my gift to
so much.
shift. I can't wait to be able to turn the tables around and really speak with you because Aissa, my goodness, I'm blown away by what you're doing right now.
Thank you so much.
And it's amazing. I love that you're bringing these topics up because many people don't, and I think that that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Let's on
facade, that filter. So thank you for opening this space, for creating these, these conversations, bringing these topics to light. Because the more we speak about it, the more we're able to shift ourselves and others into the power and the magic that we are.
I love it. I love it. And I'm so grateful that you two are on this journey because we're really on it all together. We're doing this,
Absolutely, absolutely,
and it's so great to be able to have support. And so let's continue to kind of ripple that out into the universe
absolutely,
and really create amazing things.
absolutely.
So thank you, Julie.